All right, so now that you've learned again about limiting distractions, I'm going to share one of my favorite applications on the smartphone, Kahoot. This is basically a format for students to take formative assessments, exit tickets, or maybe a bell ringer type of situation, creating a quiz where students can respond to questions via their phones. Once you create the quiz, you can put it up on an overhead projector, and students will be able to log into your specific quiz and then answer questions. At the end of the quiz, you have the option to download data via spreadsheet or to your Google Drive, and you can take a look and evaluate how the students did based on how each individual answered the questions. You can look at data as far as an entire class or individually as well. It's a great way to check in with your students from day to day. It's a wonderful tool to assess how they're learning the content. And so I tend to use this as a good formative assessment. Students love this because they get to use their phones and they find that a little competition is great incentive. Sometimes I'll give extra credit for the top 3 or 4 winners of the game. And I often tell them we're going to do Kahoot at the beginning of class because it motivates them to learn and to pay attention during the course of the class period. So I'm going to show you a little bit about Kahoot. Below you can see the steps that I've written out for you, but I'm also just going to visually show you how to create a Kahoot. I love this because it's super simple. So click on the link, Create Kahoot, Login, and you'll see here that I already have a login. So you can just set up your Kahoot over here. There's a little sign up button in the top right hand corner. For our purposes, we'll just log in. Again, they're just going to ask you for your email and a password, and you can get started. So I'm going to click Login. And there's a couple things you'll see here. Up in the top left-hand corner, you have a series of links. Find Kahoot, My Kahoots, My Results, Facts, and Support in navigating this system. Finding Kahoots is super helpful. You don't even have to make your own. For example, I teach AP Government, and in preparation for the AP exam a couple weeks ago, I had students participate in an AP Gov Kahoot that another teacher created. Somebody had taken the time to put something like 300 questions on a Kahoot game. So my students loved it. It was a really great way to recap things we'd learned. We were getting to the point where we had done quite a bit of review, so it was really helpful to just kind of sit back and have kind of this fun game-like environment, but we were still learning and reviewing material. I can also look at previous Kahoots that I've created, so things from this past school year I will be able to use next year, and then results from the Kahoot. As I've been saying, the Kahoot will keep track of all of your data. So it's not just a tool to keep kids engaged, but it's a valuable formative assessment tool that can really enhance learning. I found it really helpful. I figure out from these Kahoots what objectives in the lessons didn't really click with my students, and better ways to teach those concepts, as well as things that did. And I found that there is a relationship between how students do on these Kahoots and certain test questions that they will be given first on their summative assessment later on. So I have fallen in love with Kahoot. And so if you want to create your own, you're going to go over to the other side of your screen. And you'll see here, click on New Kahoot. And in the center here, it says create a new Kahoot. So I'm just going to scroll down. And you have a couple of options. You can create a quiz, a jumble, discussion, survey. Most of the time I'm focused on the quiz. That's probably the one you'll use most, so we will start with that. Click on quiz. And this is the screen that will show up. So up here, you can see, you can type in your title. So I could put something like how to use Kahoot. A description, it's a formative assessment on how to use the Kahoot application. You're going to want to make sure it's visible to everyone, because if it's only visible to you, your students are going to be a little frustrated with you. Over to the right, you can upload an image. I tend to not do that, but it's up to you. I teach high school students, so a visual isn't always necessary, but some kids I'm sure would enjoy that. Up here in the far right-hand corner, once I've filled out all of my information, I'll click OK, go. The last thing I'll need to do here is click that the audience is a school. So the next page, add a question. I can click here and add a question. You can see here in the top left-hand corner, this is where I would write my question up. So, I don't know. Does Kahoot provide data after the quiz is complete? And I could put answer 1, yes, it certainly does. Answer 2, no. Answer 3, sometimes. And answer 4, none of the above. I would then click next, and then my question would be added. You can see here it's question 1. Below I could add another question if I wanted to. Over here I can put a time limit, so if the questions are harder I can add time. If it's easier, decrease time. And I can click edit this question, duplicate this question, or even delete it if I didn't like it. If I'm finished with creating my assessment, I need to click the Save button in the top right-hand corner. And we'll come to this page. I can do one of two things. I can click I'm done, and it will save my Kahoot in my list of Kahoots to access later. Though if I'm going to be using it that day, I'll just leave this link open, and then when the students come into class, I will click play it. Now you can do two different types of modes. Classic is each player or each student is playing by themselves, or you could do team mode, which would be great for review game and whatnot as well. But when you click this student, the appropriate directions as far as if they are playing in a team versus individual. So I'll click on Classic here, and this will populate and it will say ready to join, and then it will take age, and it will give you a game pin. The game pin is for the student. They will go to the Kahoot app or kahoot.it, or the website in their browser, and put in this pin. This fun music will play, and you can see here to the left you'll have the number of players. So I would count up the number of students participating, and they will put their names below to show who's who when they log in. I usually do some sort of points incentive for students. That way they don't put in funny names and then I can't figure out who they are, because that is one thing high schoolers enjoy to do. Otherwise, you're all set when all of your players have joined. You'll click start and it will just prompt you right through the Kahoot of the game. You will be prompted with the winners as well as an opportunity to download the statistics. I've also found that the statistics will still be available to you later on. That's all I have for you now. Hopefully that was helpful, and enjoy using this awesome application on the student's smartphone.